Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning, Jonah.
It's the day after Thanksgiving, although in Canada, it's so strange because so many of my friends and loved ones live in the States and I live in
Right.
Canada, and I'm just doing my own business and,
Right. Just like a day like
calling
any other.
people. And they're like, Jonah, why are you calling me on Thanksgiving for
Yeah,
work?
yeah, right, right.
I'm like, oh, sorry.
My bad. And then like, why are you getting so many calls from family?
Exactly. Like, why are you calling, all of you calling me today? Oh, yeah, right.
So thankful for you. Wow, that's great, Emily.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we have a lot of listeners and viewers from other parts of the world, and they don't have this day in their calendar of the year,
Yeah.
this Thanksgiving day. And I've often tried to kind of explain how I think it's actually a part of the sacred gifts of the Lord of Karma, the Lord of Destiny, the one who shapes actually the mystery of the year, the life of the earth with our celestial
Mhm.
forces. And they're never convinced. It's very interesting. It's like, well, if we don't have it, no, I think I think there's a marker that when you get to the end of time, you're going to want to gather with your loved ones and share a meal and look back and remember how you've been blessed.
Mm.
And you want to raise a glass to one another and to God and say thank you.
Mm.
That the year would culminate in an activity of gathering around a table and a practice of gratitude.
That's
I think
that's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, one of our dear ones, Rudolf Herrmann,
yes.
crossed the threshold last night. Emma Herrmann's father, and he was blessed to have that experience. His whole family gathered around, and at the meal, at the holy meal time of year. And that's interesting. You've made a connection between this gratitude meal and the end of the liturgical year.
That's it. There's not but a few days left before Advent begins, the beginning of the liturgical year. Yeah.
I never connected that, and that's a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful to think of our dear Rudolph going into the spirit with that type of blessing. I can only hope that I can also have something of that when I die.
Amen. Yeah.
So welcome everyone again to the light in everything.
Yeah. We believe in the mystery and art of conversation, that not only alone in meditation and prayer can the Holy Spirit touch our souls, but it can emerge as a third conversation partner through deep listening and honest speaking. And I get to do this with my brother Jonah. Two of us are priests in the Christian community, and we also are directors of the seminary of the Christian community in North America, and that's who produces this podcast. So
Amen.
welcome, everyone.
Welcome. And we will begin, as we always do, with the Gospel of John. When Jesus spoke to the people again, he said, I am the light of the world. Anyone who follows me will not walk in the dark. He will have the light of life.
Yeah, so we're in this long series, this work we're doing to take up the theme of the spiritual significance of of human beings and humanity in our age meeting and encountering forces of evil, beings of evil, the presence of evil in our world, which it's just so amazing to me. I remember if I go before like the 21st century to the end of the 90s, there was a book that came out actually that I came across around that time that I came across when I was in college in the mid 90s in Santa Cruz, California at Logos Bookstore. Logos is the name of the
Mhm.
bookstore. And I'm trying to remember the title. I'm going to probably get it wrong. I'll have to look it up later, but it's something like The End of Satan. And it was a whole study to try to show how Western culture had basically over time um, developed a worldview that did not include evil forces anymore
Mhm.
and was taking him out of the conversation. And so now everything could be explained by environmental influence, psychological development. Things were just simply like a little bit off or a little bit, they just needed to be corrected. But actually, the world was basically good and, or at best, or just neutral, and whereas there is no morality at all. So this kind of, if God is going to be removed from the world, well, you of course have to take out the devil as well in our secular culture.
Mm.
And I remember just the event of September 11th and this uh, incision
Mm.
into the world of a level of something that you just couldn't not talk about it
Mm.
without without that word. We needed something suddenly, all of a sudden, in newspapers and elsewhere. The language
Mm.
for the experience, people had to draw on something, and they were suddenly, the discourse, the conversation was including evil again. And when I get to this point, when I think about like my feeling for the conversation in the world is like, for sure, there's evil. Like people don't seem to have. It's not really. It doesn't feel like a question anymore. I was curious if that echoes with your perceptions.
It does. It certainly does. I mean, it seems to be going around even more so, certainly after COVID as well.
Mm,
Um, and I hear it often now in connection with taking another octave up in connection with the woke, anti-woke
yeah,
dynamic, and
yeah,
especially even more now with around the whole event of the Charlie Kirk death.
yeah,
It's even more now. It's like it just rolls off the tongue easier for people. Evil, evil, evil on both sides. And I
yeah,
think part of that is not so helpful,
yeah.
not
That's
so
interesting, isn't it?
not so true,
Yeah,
but it's also interesting that just like you said, the word and the consciousness of evil is growing.
yeah, yeah. And the political life too. It's not really just, oh, I disagree. I'm of a different perspective,
Right.
or I think those policies are really, really bad. I can be really angry and upset about them. Everything goes to the level of the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Like people are like apocalyptic immediately, like it's, or I don't know about immediately, but that's the tenor,
Yeah.
and it just feels all the more important than to develop a science of it.
Mm.
And
Mm.
we need meaning, not an emotional, reactive place, which is understandable, but that a careful discernment will become all the more important in order not to fall prey to manipulation by evil powers.
Yeah.
So I think that's just another kind of way, another doorway in. Why are we taking up this conversation? Why do we feel like we're called by this moment?
That's a really good point. That's a really good point, because part of the evil powers that are working in the world want the human soul to be emotionally inspired to demonize other people
There you go.
and bring a divide, rather than what, of course, Rudolf Steiner has been talking about in this lecture that we've been working on, of deeply having a deep interest to reveal the divinity of every human being. So you can see already there's a kind of impulse coming into humanity strongly that is counter to these angelic intentions that are working in our hearts. Even in that.
We're going to come back to that song until we die, I think, over and over again. Like, we need to be able to see the demons.
Yeah.
And name them, describe them, characterize them. We need to know them to have a free relationship in our life and to recognize the voice of our true guide. And demonization is one of the great tools of the enemy to turn us against one another. And that's going to be a battle that just keeps increasing.
Keeps increasing. Yeah.
Yeah, so this lecture that you mentioned, this is known to many as the work of the angel in man's astral body. That's the old 20th century title. We might say what the angels are doing in human souls. What are they doing? What are they weaving? And there we've described what Rudolf Steiner gave in this lecture, that they are inspired by the guiding spirits of the earth, the Elohim, God's creator spirits, who are permeated by the heart of God, which is Christ. And they are weaving into human souls through the angels who are doing the actual threading and weaving in the soul. These ideals, these high ideals for our social life with one another. Do you want to see if we can do a quick 3 of the ideals again?
Yes. So compassion for every human, every encounter is a sacrament, or the freeing up of the spiritual religious life, and the redemption of thinking, that thinking isn't something that is blocking us from being spiritual, but can enter the spiritual world and know things.
Yeah, beautifully said. So then we looked at last time, well, that would be wonderful. That could just happen. To just weave these things in our souls. They have to do it in the soul,
Yeah.
which is a place where we are awake. We've looked at the fourfold human being through the spiritual scientific perspective: physical body, life forces or life body, the soul forces, which are feeling, thinking, and willing, which isn't our very self. It's the garment of our soul activity. And then at the core of who we are, what we can call our I am. So these 4 things. And we've looked at how God wants to inspire us, but not compel us. And so through that honoring of our freedom, the angels weave something in the soul that the ego and its awake self independence can become aware of, because the I in the soul, that's our awake part.
Yeah.
And when the I and the soul leave the body, then we fall asleep or die or faint. Right? What is fainting? What is sleeping? What is dying? The soul and the ego exiting the body. Sleep is just where you keep a thread of connection and you re-enter, breathe back in. Death is where that connection is severed. So in this age of the aware, awake human self that Rudolf Steiner characterized as the consciousness soul,
Hmm.
which began in around 1413, and you can really call the modern era. It's essential that our spiritual life, if it's good and true, leaves us free and doesn't compel us, and presents to us an option to take,
Hmm.
right? So the angels take that route. And we talked about last time then, well, the problem is that the angels are not the only ones who are active in our astral body, who are active in our constitution, but that we have these two other beings who are not following the goals of the Elohim, but have their own goals. Lucifer and Satan, or the Persian name that Steiner used most often, Ahriman,
Hmm.
the spirit of darkness, the one who in his being wants the world to create a world that is permeated by intelligence, but an intelligence severed from the light of the primal creator being, a cold, material bound intelligence, and wants to give us the impression there is no other world than this world, the physical world. And then, as we spent a good bit of time last time, because we see it as a real threat within our own spiritual traditions, Lucifer, what is he doing to obscure, again, things?
Right. That's so important. It's been living in me for the week too, just how prevalent this impulse is to make spiritual life automatic. So Lucifer wants to inspire us towards pictures where we don't have to think, we don't have to discern, we don't have to activate a kind of inner will
Mhm.
to do anything. It just flows naturally. It's harmonious. It just comes. In other words, you are already what you're seeking. So there's no, you could say there's no participation of this free part that you talked about.
Mm.
The free part is just, it already is. So it doesn't need to work.
Yeah, because if the free part comes in, now you're going to have sin. Now, because people are going to make mistakes, they're going to make other choices.
Yeah.
And that's not, that will have bad things. The world will get ugly. The world will get dark. Like we need, let's just have everybody be good.
Yeah.
Get linked up with the good.
Automatic. So that's why, that's one of the reasons why there's so much in the spiritual life today of a kind of, look, don't think, let your thinking go. Your thinking is blocking you from this automatic flow of divinity in you.
Which is like the natural world, you could say. All of the natural world is automatically wise, automatically harmonious,
Yeah. Very good point.
right?
There's no discernment for the lion. He just does.
But it does lion things.
The tree is just living in the harmony of the flow of the forces.
So Lucifer is full of these good ideals, he says,
Yeah.
but he doesn't love one of them, right?
Right.
There's an ideal that he actually is against,
Yeah. How would you
and that
name that this morning, Patrick?
was, well, he's against love
Mm.
because he's against freedom.
Ooh, that's such a deep picture, actually. We could go hours into that. He
Yeah,
doesn't love, he doesn't love love because he doesn't love freedom.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So to be automatic, in order to be automatic, I have to be a despot. I actually have to be a tyrant. So if I want to have everyone do what is good, I have to make them do it.
Yeah.
They have to simply be reflections of me. And that's so because our God is not a narcissist. This is it. This is the key. Lucifer is a narcissist. Like, yeah, I want it all to be good and beautiful. I want it to reflect the ideals of the world, my world.
Yeah.
Then I would make everyone be my reflection. But if I build the possibility of you reflecting me into, but let you choose another way, that will be part of the image, because I'm a free being. I'm going to let you be free. A part of the image of God is God is free. Yeah. So and I know in myself when I first discovered like that at the root of my being, my spiritual life was connected with the goal of becoming a tyrant. Meaning we lost the instructions. We need to get them and implement them. Stop the madness. So we have to understand how this comes out like a prayer and a cry from the human soul. This has got to stop. You see it in the book of Revelation, the dead saints underneath the altar praying to God, when will it end? When will it, please, how much longer? Is this
Yeah.
going to go on? Right? So there's a cry from the human soul
Yeah.
that we are suffering our freedom. Freedom is a doorway for the demons.
Yeah. Right.
But it's the sorry, go
That's
ahead.
that's so good. It's the doorway for the demons, and it's the opportunity for love. Isn't that fascinating? The doorway, both at the same time, the free human ego is the doorway for the demons, and they don't work through inspiration, they work through temptation. They can't actually take you over unless you say yes somewhere in your being. They
Somewhere.
and that works with temptation, whereas the angels also don't take you over because they're simply working with inspiration that could invite you to a good,
Yeah.
to love.
Yeah, and oh gosh, well, like one of the profound stages of my own spiritual journey happened in a Christmas time about 3 years ago now, where I was led into it was Christmas, so I was led into the darkness, and it was the darkness of certain levels of evil that are taking place on the earth right now,
Mm.
which for me are so hard to talk about that they're even happening. And I found myself in the depths of that darkness so angry with God. Because if you go, to the question, and this is I think really key for us to talk about when we say facing evil and the tests that it put upon our faith. The tests that this facing evil does for our trust in and love of God. I had to bring to him the evidence that the reason you made this world.
Mm.
You were the one that made the circumstances that could allow these things to begin to take place. Not you're the actor. You're not that you did these things personally, but you have made the world in which they can come about.
Yeah.
Or in other words, who let the snake in the garden?
Yeah.
That's God's garden. And that's just a really profound shaking. It shakes the ground of your being to meditate on that question. And I brought all of that. You could say I was like a lawyer in a court, and I held him responsible. And he accepted it. He did not deny it. And the way that he accepted it was so life-changing.
Mm.
Because he also clearly would bear all that that means himself. And what happened in me was I felt underneath that this impossible hope and faith in us
Mm.
that is in the heart of God. There's no other way to get to love.
Mm.
To get to the good and the true and the beautiful automatically isn't it. But if you choose it, given all kinds of options to go another way and all the offers made by the enemy, then something miraculous happens. Yeah.
That's very moving. And I feel like it's going to help us as we go further in this lecture because of these two elements that I want to emphasize in your beautiful experience there, which is that God, out of his responsibility,
Mm.
allows it to unfold.
Mm.
So in a way you could say there's a radical acceptance of the darkness in God. And at the same time, you said he's suffering it. He's bearing it with us. So I feel like that's, especially that second part is so important if we're going to imagine a God that's not a beast. Meaning a being that's aloof, that's inflicting things on other beings because of some purpose.
Yeah.
This picture that you experienced is I'm allowing this, I'm letting this unfold so that love can come about.
Mm.
And I'm going to suffer it with every single being.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be aloof and just pedagogically ordering things.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe the other element, the third element that comes in there that suddenly becomes such a comfort. And this is a very mature, these things ask a great level of spiritual maturity for us. That's why why I think we're in this age. And that is the comfort of God's justice. Meaning in the Eastern term karma. That if there wasn't that, that would also be another thing we couldn't bear, I think. But that this freedom doesn't happen in a vacuum. Every action we take, everything we sow has its harvest. It will bear fruit, and we will have to eat it.
And that's that karmic idea that you just brought up is really important to differentiate from the maybe sort of Eastern idea of karma of just mere action reaction, but a kind of moral karma.
Yeah.
And this is described in the Old Testament as well as in the New Testament, especially in Paul's Romans,
Yeah.
that your moral action will be met with an equal moral consequence, a
Yeah.
kind of dark consequence, not as punishment, but as a kind of way to school you for looking at your own deeds.
Yeah. It's actually knowledge.
Yeah.
So I love that you chose school in the sense that usually why we take certain actions that aren't good is we don't really understand what we're doing.
Yeah.
So the temptations work. It's the rare case that an awake ego chooses evil.
Hmm.
There's always some dimming. There was some a truly awake ego that knows what they're doing and the consequences of the deed and chooses it. The term for that is a black magician. That's somebody who is utterly awake and taking the black path.
Choosing harm. Yeah.
That's very, very rare,
Very rare,
but real.
but real. Yeah. It's so true. I'm so glad you brought that up, because if you look at even your own or some of the quote unquote worst people in history, they're thinking they're doing good. They're thinking, I'm going to bring this system or this way of being into society that's going to save society. And it turns out to be so they're not thinking, I'm going to destroy like a black magician would. Yeah.
Yeah, or just the simple things, right? Oh, if I do this, it's not so bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not so bad.
It's not so bad.
And we're just not able to see the levels of ways in which it is causing harm.
Yeah.
And so when the fruits of our actions come upon us, we get to taste and feel and experience at a very deep level. Oh, that is the effect. That is an expression of what I chose. Now I know more deeply why that and how that was wrong. All of this, I think, is a great preparatory kind of discussion. I'm sure you see that also for what we want to do next.
Mm.
So if these two enemies of the true path of our development as human beings, Lucifer and Ahriman, are able to obscure the inspirations from the angels, then Rudolf Steiner says, what would happen? What would happen? What would happen if rather than in this awake state that we could receive these inspirations towards a new way of being together, freedom and freedom in our religious life, plus the awakening to the sacramental nature of every human encounter, the enhancement of our thinking so that it becomes able to enter the spirit and receive from the spirit, to spiritualize our thinking, and to live with a deep sense of solidarity with every human being on the earth, that whatever happens to anyone is also happening to me. That I cannot be truly happy unless if somebody else is suffering. That these three ideals that are being woven into our souls, if we miss them, what would happen? So I'd love to just dive into the lecture then again with you.
Yeah.
Um, and this is the place where he said there's a small little paragraph that says, from this you can realize that the work of the angels is and under all circumstances must remain serious. This is important. It's earnest. Just imagine what conditions would be behind the scenes of existence if through their somnolence, that is people being asleep, human beings were able to turn the work of the angels into a game. This isn't a game. This is just fun and games.
Right.
So then, do you see that? I'm just trying to like locate you in the text.
No, I'm not. I've got a non-numbered.
Yeah, me too. um, it's not too long after he's speaking about Ahriman and Lucifer. I don't know if you have that part there. And then he starts a paragraph and it says, and what if this should happen
Oh
after
yeah.
all?
Yeah,
You
good.
got it?
I got it.
Nice. Shall we go ahead and read a little into
Yeah.
that? Okay, because I think
Let's do it.
this is very exciting territory. What if humanity on earth should persist in sleeping through the momentous spiritual revelation of the future? Right? This is a goal, a future goal. If this were to happen in respect of the freedom of the religious life, for example. So what if we sleep through the inspiration? For example, if human beings were to sleep through the repetition of the mystery of Golgotha on the etheric plane, the reappearance of the etheric Christ, or other matters as well, then the angels would have to try different means of achieving what the pictures they weave in the astral body of the human being are intended to achieve. Say what? This is a surprise. He hasn't talked about this in terms of the religious life yet in this lecture at all. But suddenly, before when he talked about the religious life, right, he talked about those two things.
Yeah.
What will be important is the freedom element and this, you could say, discovery that religious life is not an institutional question. It's actually a relational question with every human. Every human relationship can take on religious qualities, become sacramental. Okay, yeah, beautiful. And then when he returns back to it, he suddenly says, this is a second coming question. And he refers then to something that is actually very rarely known, even in anthroposophical circles, a repetition of the mystery of Golgotha and the etheric plane.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to take some time with this
Okay. Okay. Beautiful.
because I think what came to me as I've been meditating on
Yeah.
it, the gospel imagery, the New Testament imagery that is coming here is the mystery of the thief in the night.
Mm.
In the Gospel of Matthew,
Mm.
in Paul's letter to the Thessalonians, in
Mm.
Peter's letter, in the book of Revelation twice, this strange thing is said, Jesus is coming again,
Mm-hmm.
but if you are asleep to it, it will be like a thief in the night. Like, what? Why will he be a thief? Like there's some threat. Why isn't it just like you missed it?
Yep. Sorry.
You'll have slept through it. It could easily like if my coming and then you'll like have missed it. Why will he be a thief? Why does suddenly through my sleeping, my relationship change to him so that he's taking something from the house?
Yeah.
That there's damage to the house somehow
Yeah.
through the coming. That something with the coming, that it can shift in its blessing nature. Anyway, I think this is, for me, this is suddenly the background.
Yeah,
So we need to take a little time here. I
let's
know we've
do
got a
it.
whole series. If anyone is interested, you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/CC Seminary. We have a whole series on the second coming, which might be helpful to people, but we need to do it. Here it is in this lecture. Two profound things: the repetition of the mystery of Golgotha in the etheric plane, and the reappearance of Christ in the etheric world. Help us out, Jonah.
Yeah, I mean, it's also interesting for people to know that in a way, this second coming that Rudolf Steiner is describing here is something that for Rudolf Steiner is happening now. And it's coming not in a material form,
Mm.
not like an actual physical material being again, or actually materially coming down on a cloud, but he's seeing in those pictures imaginative consciousness, imaginative knowledge, which we talked about, that is referring to an event that's happening just beyond the sense world, just beyond the sensory plane, this etheric plane, or where imaginative consciousness can awaken. Similar, if we look at it in terms of biblical pictures, similar to what Paul on the way to Damascus experienced,
Mm. Mm.
where
Yeah,
spirit,
not
yeah, go ahead.
well. Just yeah, he didn't meet Jesus in his embodiment in life prior to the resurrection.
Right,
Neither did he meet the risen one on the road to Damascus.
right,
He met a totally different form than anything that's described in the Gospels.
exactly. It was an encounter that he saw, heard, and felt with spiritual organs of perception. Just beyond the material plane, Jesus Christ and came to him in an encounter and said, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?
And
It's
his
Jesus.
companions didn't see him.
Yeah, exactly. Very important.
Yeah.
So Rudolf Steiner describes this is actually a first experience of what would later become a kind of experience possible for all humans
Yeah.
that's breaking into experience right now. So that's a very unique quality of anthroposophy and the movement for religious renewal, that we're trying to cultivate eyes, ears, hearts to perceive this now.
Yeah. It's so striking that Paul was, as is described in the book of the Acts, this is in chapter 9 for those who want to go and read about his experience on the road to Damascus, is that as he's going, right, he's got these papers in his hand to go capture Christians, and it says he's breathing murderous thoughts. Like he's just like full, actually, of a dark spirit. And so then on the road to fulfill a dark deed, Christ breaks into his life in this light experience, a being of light, in light.
Right?
Yeah.
And that also, what you just said, mirrors a little bit of what we're going to celebrate on Sunday, which is the first
Mm.
Advent Sunday. And in every altar, we're going to hear Luke 21, which also has this signature of all of these difficult things are going to be breaking in upon the earth. A kind of winter time
Mm.
is there won't be peace among the nations, that all kinds of natural catastrophes are going to occur.
Mm.
And in the midst of this challenging darkness, just like in the midst of Paul's murderous,
Mm.
a kind of microcosm, and this is a
Right.
macrocosm, in the midst of this darkness, Christ is going to reveal himself again to those who have the eyes to see. So
And it
Steiner's
concludes. Oh yeah, go ahead.
here saying then that, however, this could be missed.
Yeah. As again, which is what the Gospels say. What
Yeah.
you can't sleep through someone's arrival in physical reality. And the only corollary is the thief. Right? If somebody comes, is coming in a
Yeah.
normal way during the day, they come to your door, they knock on the door, and you're already awake.
Yeah.
But he's clearly saying there's like a night consciousness. You're going to have to wake up in the spirit world. You cannot be asleep. We cannot just live in our physical day waking consciousness anymore. We have to start to stretch out beyond that, actually. And this is where it's interesting. This is Luke 21, right? That's read. You said it's like a winter experience, but actually in the text,
Mm.
Jesus interprets it as a sign that summer is coming, right?
Good point. Good point. So
Just so
material,
awesome.
right? This is so important. This double eye, that for Jesus, I love that you pointed that out. For Jesus, the very materially winterness of the
Breaking
destruction,
down, dying.
he's saying that's actually spiritually spring.
Yes.
So you have to have a new sight.
Yes.
I can't look at the disasters as mere disasters.
That's it.
There's signs that the Spirit is coming. Is here now.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing. It's like, hey, friends, do you notice how you're living a perfectly good life in your little suburb in Minnesota, wherever you are in this world, but children are being bombed in the Ukraine, in Gaza, in other places of the world. There are massacres happening, like in Sudan.
Yeah.
People can't bear it anymore. They can't, they actually feel like I'm not okay while this happens. And that's when we interpret the signs correctly, we say, that's good. This
Yeah.
is very good. We should not, first of all, the fact that we can be aware of what's happening all over the earth is new in a different way. And that we cannot be okay in our outwardly comfortable circumstances when we know others are suffering at that level. That would be a sign that that summer is near, that this change is happening in us. But we could still sleep through it if we thought the way that the reason this is happening is only a material reason. If we now go and try to see it only with those material gaze and don't awaken to the fact that actually at this moment, people can have a Damascus experience. He's approaching.
Yeah.
He's near.
And yeah. So I find this so interesting
Yeah.
because it's as if, in order to connect to the good impulses of the angels, the good impulses which of course now we see are a connection to what Christ is doing with humanity, revealing himself anew, going through a
Mm.
repetition of Golgotha in an etheric sphere. But in order to start to get close to that, I have to see through outer darkness, material disaster, that's actually a sign of the good present. What's going to happen in this lecture is he's going to say what's going to be stolen from me is my
Mm.
discernment, my ability to see and think and discern in such a way that things will start to happen materially that I think are good, but are actually seriously detrimental. So it's almost, this thought is
That's
newly
it.
coming to me right now.
So good.
It's almost like I have to learn to see through the material to the good of Christ.
Yeah.
If I don't, there will be taken from me an organ of perception where I will think what is actually darkness is good in the material world.
That's it. Because if it's possible that my own consciousness and sense of self fully only inhabits and acknowledges and lives in a material world, then I enter amorality. There is no morality
Mm,
in the
mm.
physical world alone. There is none. So the light of morality will go out. This requires moral vision, moral sight. And so we need a new sun. We need a different sun to become aware of this light that emanates from an actual person. It was Plato in his ancient dialogues, right, on the Republic, tried to, gave this fourfold picture of the cosmos. Is there's a physical sun in this world, but when you ascend into the spirit world, you find there is a second sun,
Right.
and it's made of goodness. And the prophets called it the sun of righteousness, S-U-N. There's a radiance that radiates actually the good. And that was the shocking thing is, as on Mount Tabor, when he was transfigured before the disciples, the good is a person. The meaning of the earth is a human. What's radiating from the sun, because morality is a human thing.
Mm, mm.
It's a human thing, but it's not an arbitrary thing. And that's what will happen. It's just so well said. If we can't become aware of the moral sun, we won't have the moral eyes to see and judge and discern.
Right.
So this is huge. I've never put it together the way you've just put it
No,
together.
me
It's like
neither.
you were,
Me neither. Because I'm putting together this lecture with Luke 21 and seeing,
yeah,
oh, there's a sight that I can't just take the material disasters at face value.
no,
Christ is asking us to see through those catastrophes, through this war of all against all feeling, this constant battle, this division, as a sign he's coming close. He's making himself, inviting us to an experience of him. But then later in this lecture, and I'm glad you brought up the thief, those who sleep through this and don't take up these impulses from the angels, don't come to an encounter with him, will start to see something as good in the material world that's actually deeply dark. So it's like a reversal of a sight.
yes, yeah, that's it. We will lose our ability to see morally
Yeah.
and thereby make judgments, and that will be accepted as this is good for you. This is good for us. This is okay. That are clearly not.
Right. Right. So the compassion feeling and interest in the true divinity of the human being, Rudolf Steiner says, becomes, if we don't take it up, a kind of twisted sense of sexuality that we think is good. The moral compass has been taken in a certain way. The freedom in the religious life becomes a knowledge, an instinctual knowledge to create medicine that we think is good, that is also not helpful.
I know.
And if we don't transform and redeem thinking, he says it becomes a kind of intelligence, an instinctual intelligence to create technologies that we think are good,
Yeah.
but are actually destructive. Of course, that's just an introduction. We'll probably
That's
have to go in.
fantastic. Yeah. It was good to really just name all three. And you use the word instinct, right? So that maybe just to at least have that picture along with the three effects, the angel has to reach us. And so Rudolf Steiner describes having taken the route of working in the soul and that not working, being obscured. The soul world is so obscured by Lucifer and Ahriman. The angel has to go deeper and weave it into the life body, into the etheric body. And so when we wake up in the morning, our soul and spirit enter into the physical and etheric body. There are things there that impact us, drive us, compel us. And we don't necessarily understand where they're coming from or why they're there. So instinctual things are there, and we're actually not free.
We're not free. And I've been thinking about this for a couple weeks now
Yeah.
because of this mystery that also Rudolf Steiner says it's a profound mystery of this transformation of the angel's work, that they have to go deeper, as you named. He says he can't even talk about.
Like the effect it has on the angels, he can't talk
Right.
about. It's like
He can't
difficult
talk
for them.
about what this means for the actual angels. So I've been just thinking about, well, in a way, we can see this as we don't want to wake up. We want to stay asleep. We want to continue to not take up others' pain as our own, to demonize other human beings and not see the divinity in them, to try to make tyrannical spirituality automatic, to dismiss thinking, all these things and there's pictures in the New Testament and the Old Testament, very important pictures where it describes this kind of karma. God hands us over to what we want.
Yeah.
So I think this is really important in this context
Yeah.
if we're to link it to the Bible.
That's it.
And particularly powerful in the first chapter of Romans, the letter, where he describes because we wanted to not see the reality,
Yeah.
God hands us over. He calls it gives them up, or it's from the Greek word paradidomai, to hand over to certain consequences. And the second definition of paradidomai, this Greek word, that's God handing us over to consequences because we didn't want what was on offer, i.e., we didn't want the angel's inspirations. This is in Romans 1:24. The second definition of this is of being delivered up to a course of teaching.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that interesting?
What an amazing phrasing. Yeah.
Paradidomai, being delivered up to a course of
Mm.
teaching.
Mm.
God hands us over to these more difficult consequences
Yeah.
because that's in a way what we've chosen. We
That's
haven't
it.
wanted to wake up.
It's really honoring our freedom.
It's honoring our freedom,
Yes.
but it's a course of teaching. So in a way, it follows this trajectory that I think every soul knows. If I don't work to transform with what is given, later on I get something more difficult.
Yep. Yep.
And I think in this light,
100%.
I can understand it better that the angels have to take on a kind of wrath picture. Wrath is the way that Paul describes this paradidomai. But it's not punishment. It's God handing us over to a further course of schooling.
Yeah.
that we have to face the consequences of our deeds. I think that's also important to bring into this.
Yes.
And
Yeah. So
something
that,
is stolen too. Sorry, something is stolen. I think that thief picture is also important.
yeah,
It's not just handing over. It's also there's something that is taken. And there's tremendous mysteries here.
totally. Well, that gets me so excited for the next conversation. I can notice that we're zeroing in on the heart of this. So to have a little bit more time to understand the dangers and how things could flip if the angels have to work below our consciousness in the instinctual realm, to look at those, because he says this needs to happen by the turn of the millennium. So he
Yeah.
gave this again back in the first fifth beginning of the 20th century. And I said, in the year 2000, if we have not awoken, oh,
Yeah.
woken up,
Woken up to.
woken up from to this inspiration, then these shifts will start to happen. So I'd love also just to take a little bit of time to see what are we seeing
Yeah.
25 years in, a quarter of the way into the new millennium. What are some of the effects that we're seeing? Are there signs that that the angels have had to do this? But I hope we can take a moment still to look at this second Golgotha.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do. Let's
Because I
start
think
with that.
that'll probably open up it's also such a radical new revelation, and so important and helpful to know that there's been a passion, death, and resurrection event that Christ has gone through in another plane of existence. Yeah.
Very unique. And that will help us, I think. You're right. So let's start with that and then go into this, see what we're seeing. I also just want to add one more thing here, which
Yeah, please.
I'd like to discuss too, is that as I deepen myself in this lecture and this picture, I can't help but start to see myself that both things are happening. There
Yeah.
are souls. There
Yeah.
are souls
Good.
that are taking up these impulses from the angel.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and at the same time, there's a whole swath of humanity that are not. And I think we will be able to see these consequential angels working in how Rudolf Steiner is describing them. And both, the light is also in the darkness. Both are happening at the same time.
And maybe even in one person.
Amen to that. Oh, okay, that's a good teaser. That's a good teaser. Good.
Thank you, Jonah.
Thank you, Patrick.